Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about tariffs. All right, you guys have heard about the China tariffs. Oh, the China tariffs are this. They're going to put clothing brands out of business, yada, yada, yada. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, the tariff situation is definitely changing the game for clothing brand owners. But in this video, I'm going to do a few things. Number one, I'm going to educate you on what the tariffs even are and explain how they're impacting my business and other businesses like mine. Then we're going to talk about our current tariff situation. And then I'm going to go over a few ways that you can prepare for any future changes in tariffs that could potentially put your business in jeopardy. Now, I've been getting hundreds of messages from brand owners asking me, Marsh, what do I do? Are the imports going to ruin my business? Am I not going to be able to afford my bulk order? Yada, yada, yada. And here's the thing. Most brand owners, they're panicking right now because they're thinking like this is still 2023. They're stuck in the old ways of doing shit. And whereas there's nothing wrong with the old ways of doing shit, the problem is that could potentially get a lot more expensive here in the next few months. And this is why I've been building backup systems to solve this problem for myself in the future if it arises and gets bad. And today I'm going to break down how to survive as a thriving clothing brand, how to prepare for future changes, and what I'm specifically doing to maneuver all this shit. And the beauty is a lot of you guys are going to watch this video and you're actually going to grow your brands faster because of alternative methods that I'm going to explain later on. So if you're serious about building a brand in 2025, I want you to lock in for the next 15 minutes. We're going to get down to business because this could literally save your business. Let's get into what's actually happening with the tariffs. So first of all, a tariff is essentially just a fee for getting goods produced outside the US into the US to sell, which 99% of companies in the US are doing. They're getting goods made overseas in China, Vietnam, Turkey, India, Pakistan, whatever, and they're getting them shipped here to sell to their customers. Now, within the tariff fee or landed cost, what it costs to get it in the United States, you have two major fees. Your first fee is your base tariff, which is your MFN, your most favored nations tariff. This is just the baseline tariff for most countries that do like very well economically, right? And then you've got your second tariff. The second tariff is the Section 301 tariff that I believe was implemented in 2018, and that is just a fee on top of the baseline tariff. This has been the same for years and years and years now. This hasn't been anything new. I'm just breaking down what's been in place for years now. Now, most brands we produce in China because China is the most up to date as far as productions, and that tariff fee is going to be somewhere in the realm of 25 to 30%. It's been like that for years, and that's where it's currently at. Now, there was a 1 to 2 month period in April, end of March, where the tariff shot up to like 145%, and they shot up again, and then they went down, and then they shot up again, and it was very, very volatile, and a lot of businesses were panicking, right? Because 145% tax, that is the cost of your goods. So let's say I have a hoodie, right? This hoodie cost me $100 to produce. Obviously, no hoodie costs $100, but I'm just using 100 for easy numbers, right? $100 to produce. Now, if a tariff fee adds 145% tax on that, that hoodie now costs me $245 landed to get in the US and now sell, right? And now, very few people are going to price their hoodies at $245 and be able to sell them, which means that most businesses are going way negative, right? They're fucked, right? So obviously, this isn't sustainable. Nobody can move productions to the US fast enough. Most of these big companies can't anyways. The smaller brands can, right? But most people can't move that to the US fast enough because the US doesn't have the capabilities that these foreign countries have in terms of mass production of goods, right? We don't have the factories. We don't have the equipment. We don't have the fabrics. We don't have the conventions. We're fucked, essentially, right? For a month and a half, we were fucked. But I knew that this was not going to last, right? Because it can't last. The US can't sustain that logistically, right? So what happened about 3 weeks ago is Trump decided to put a pause on this whole tariff shit, right? And shit went back down to 30%, back to what it was before. Now, we have 3 months to figure this out. Now, in 3 months, the tariffs might jump back up again. They might stay at 30. Who knows? But what we need to do is prepare just in case. And the reason you should prepare is because as a brand owner, you need to be moving with confidence. You need to be moving knowing that you're getting your shit for this price or this price or this price, knowing that nothing's really going to change to affect your business super negatively. And the way to do this is by literally just making other arrangements just in case China tariffs go back up. That is what separates the successful brand owners from the ones that are going to fail. All right, it's because we prepare just in case some shit goes south. We don't sit here and cry about policy changes, all right? We figure it out regardless of what happens. Now, most clothing brand owners use what I call just the gambling method. I know that's a terrible name, but basically they just buy a big bulk order in hopes that they're gonna sell everything. Sometimes they sell everything, sometimes they don't, all right? And for you beginner brand owners, that's probably not the greatest idea. Maybe sometimes you guys have the demand for it, you guys can build the hype, right? And then you have justification to do that. But if you have zero hype, zero demand, and you're just trying to make some good clothes, I do have an option for you guys. Here's an option for you guys that will eliminate the risk of not selling your whole bulk order while also avoiding the whole tariff shit completely. Now, for those of you new brand owners, instead of gambling with tariffs, you can avoid the whole tariff situation and the bulk order risk completely with a method called print on demand. Now, I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, oh, Marshall, print on demand is low quality. They make it in the US, so I'd rather make it in China. Where the fuck do you think that they get their clothes? They get them made overseas and ship them into the US and then ship them to your customers. All right, if you're buying something from the US, you don't pay a tariff fee. And also, if it's being made overseas, then more than likely it's up to the overseas production standard. Now, does it reduce some customizability? Yes, but these limiting beliefs are what's keeping you guys here and keeping the other brands here. All right, print on demand is something that's used by massive companies like Coca-Cola, all that bullshit propaganda, that's keeping you from taking action. And remember what I said about adapting? All right, you got to be open to new approaches when one stops working or one may not be the best option. And these companies like Printful, for example, are producing merch for Coca-Cola, Spotify, MTV, CBS, NBC, and the same quality that all these massive brands are getting, anybody can get with no upfront cost. And I used to think this whole print on demand thing was just like cheap. Oh, it's the worst option because you can't customize it as much. But for a lot of people, you're just making t-shirts, all right? You're just making hoodies. You're just making sweatpants. It's less about all the little tiny details of your garments and more about the actual identity and community and branding that your brand has to offer to the And sometimes that doesn't require the most creative garment construction. Now, let's get into some solutions, all right? We're gonna talk about some domestic solutions, and then we're gonna talk about some alternative overseas solutions that will help you to avoid tariffs in the future. Now, with print on demand, I want you to think about this, all right? There's zero risk in ordering a bulk order, right? Because you don't have to order a bulk order because it's print on demand. You print as you need more clothes made. There is zero minimum orders, zero MOQs. You also get local or European production, which avoids the tariffs completely. Now, I'm not saying that print on demand is the only way to go. And what the good competitive brands are doing is actually way smarter than that. It's a hybrid approach that gives you the best of both worlds. See, a lot of established brands that you guys may know very well are ordering their proven products, right? Their products that they've sold before, that are staples, that have sold tons and tons and tons of inventory. They're ordering those from China and just bearing the potential risk of tariff increase, right? But a lot of their new items, they're doing print on demand or made locally in the US with domestic printers because it's cheaper, right? And it's not a proven concept yet. So they don't know that it's worth the investment of potentially risking the tariff. So they'll get it produced in the US through these blank companies or print on demand companies or local printers. And they'll roll out those new products with no proof of concept domestically so that they don't risk the increase of tariffs in the future. And you can also just get really strategic with your bulk orders. One thing my brand is doing is ordering a ton of blank t-shirts, blank hoodies, blank sweatpants, blank jeans, blank denim from China right now, storing them in the US and then getting them printed and embroidered and the designs put on them in the US as we produce them and sell them, right? So that way right now, I know the tariffs aren't gonna change. At least for the next 3 months, the tariffs will not change, right? So I know what I'm getting into, right? I order those in the US and now I have inventory for the next 6 months, right? That I know is not going to change. I know I'm not gonna be charged a tariff on these, even if the tariffs in China go back up, right? So you can get strategic with stuff like that. Now, a good solution for a lot of you guys, and this should have already occurred to you, but a solution for most of you brands who are operating at bigger scale would be just switching manufacturing countries, right? Maybe just don't produce in China, right? There are other major manufacturing countries. We've got Turkey, India, Pakistan, Vietnam, right? The tariff rates there don't change. They never did change. Whenever China shot up, theirs stayed the same, and more than likely, they'll stay the same in the long term. Now, the tariff rates for these countries vary a little bit. In Vietnam, you're gonna pay anywhere from 16 to 32% in tariffs, but Vietnam has some of the highest consistent consistency and quality control of all the major manufacturing countries. In Turkey, you're gonna pay anywhere from 16 to 30%, and Turkey is typically where you'll get the fastest production and turnaround time to the US. In India, you're gonna pay anywhere from 20 to 32%. India is really, really good with natural fibers, and that's gonna be really good for brands that want the artisanal, organic, embellished pieces. And then there's Pakistan, where you can expect to pay anywhere from 15 to 28%, I believe. And the major benefit to producing in Pakistan is that that's where you're gonna get the lowest prices for premium heavy basics, right? Your fleece, cotton, jersey materials, your basics, right? That's where you're gonna get them the cheapest. And some of these countries aren't quite as well-rounded as China, but the tariff prices on those countries are not predicted to go up or down. They're pretty much gonna stay the same. China is the only one that's really, really at risk for going back up. And now, lastly, I wanna talk about building anti-fragile systems, all right? This isn't just about tariffs. This is about building an airtight business in an unpredictable world. Okay. Now, first of all, I think it's important to understand that tariffs are just one example of how fast things can change in business. When COVID happened, nobody could predict COVID. COVID wasn't anybody's fault, right? And that threw a shit ton of businesses under, and it's because they weren't prepared. They weren't airtight. Then there's always shipping delays. Shipping delays can fuck over a company, whether it's a clothing brand or a jewelry brand or fucking whatever, right? And some people have factory or production issues. I've had production issues before. A lot of companies have to deal with it. It just is what it is. There's no way to really predict that or avoid that. So, and again, this is why you need an airtight business. And when I say you need an airtight business, you need to avoid the danger of having a single strategy business. All right, you should never just have one strategy. You cannot be dependent on just one approach. You need to have wild cards in your back pocket ready to pull. All right, I have a shit ton of wild cards that I've never used, and then maybe I've never will use them, right? But they're there just in case. See, and the businesses that have those wild cards to pull are the ones that are actually going to excel every single time there's a problem that arises. And that's because every time there's a problem that arises, their competition that's not prepared is eliminated, wiped off the board. I no longer have to worry about those people because I'm prepared. All I have to worry about is the other brands that are also prepared, that are also leveling up now because the little guys are taken off the board. You guys have probably heard the concept of reactive versus proactive. The reactive guys, the tariffs hit, everybody's fucking scrambling, everybody's going red, everybody's fucking, oh my God, what do we do, right? Whereas the proactive brands, the brands that predicted this shit, the brands that were on top of their stuff, that weren't single strategy brands, were fine, right? I'm chilling. I am totally chilling. I have a brand that does 6 figures a month and we were not affected by the tariffs, all right? We had a little bit of a shipping delay for like a week, I think, but that was it because we were proactive, we prepared. We had multiple revenue streams. We had prepared production methods. We have relationships with the manufacturer in Pakistan, in Vietnam, in Turkey, in Taiwan, I think too, in the US, domestic manufacturers. We're prepared, and we were prepared because I run my business with long-term thinking in mind, all right? And when you own a business, shit's gonna get thrown at you every single day. Every single day, there's a new fire lit up under my tent, right? And the reason my business is still standing, my tent is still up, is because I'm prepared to put that fire out every single time it happens, right? And that's what running a business is about. It's not all fun and rainbows 24/7. Problems arise, things happen, shit happens, life happens, you deal with it, you keep moving forward. And that's what separates a successful brand from the brands that fail. And look, tariff policies are still evolving. More than likely, they're going to improve, but the uncertainty doesn't go away. And while everybody else is worrying about price increases and tariff increases, the smart brand owners, they're figuring out how to turn this uncertainty amongst the market into an advantage for themselves, just like I'm doing. And if you want to build a real clothing brand that not just survives, but thrives amongst this little market upset, then I've got something for you. Go watch this 45-minute masterclass. It's an entire masterclass, teaches you where to start, how to start, and how to get where you want to be. And I made this training before all the tariffs uncertainty arose, but all of the basics are there. All the foundations are there. Without that information, you're cooked, whether there's tariffs or no tariffs. I talk about building communities, structuring marketing campaigns, managing cash flow, scaling without going broke, reinvestments, and all of those things are what's going to help you navigate what comes next. And if you're serious about building flexibility into your business model, check out Printful in the link below. I'm in the trenches with you guys, all right? I'm adapting to this shit in real time, and I'm in your corner. I know it's not easy. I know it's hard. I know it's discouraging sometimes, but I'm right there with you. I'm in your corner. I'm here to support you. Hopefully you learned something from this video. If you did, please like the video. It would help me a little bit. And drop a comment if there's something you guys want me to cover, dive into. I'd love to teach you guys and help you guys more. Peace.